happy and sane. So,
Live in 10 seconds.
Oh, wonderful. It's like, yeah, 10 seconds is like,
Yeah, the countdown.
yeah. But it's also interesting. I mean, we used to spend so much time planning things and people would not be available sometimes. We never thought
so we are
it would be
live
so
now.
easy. Oh,
We are live.
yeah.
Welcome to Winning Minds show, everybody. We are an inspirational storytelling platform powered by Women Inspiring Network, which is a platform to bring together women from different walks of life to achieve achievers who can inspire the next generation. And through the platform, we've garnered more than 10 million views in the last several months. And our aim really is to build communities going forward. And in Winning Minds, we are doing a series of conversations with these brilliant women content creators, authors, writers, bloggers who are writing across different platforms in different media, different genres. And we aim to unpick their journeys, unpick their minds, and see what makes them tick, and really understand, the process of creativity and the process of writing. And with that, we really hope to inspire the next generation of people who are looking to get into creativity. So without further ado, let me welcome our guests today. We've got Khyrinnisa and Jyoti Kapoor. So let me do the introductions and then we will just get into the conversation. So Khyrinnisa is a prize-winning author who writes humor books for children. She's created the Butterfinger series, which is meant for younger children. Her latest book, which has been published by Red Panda Westland, is The Lizard of Oz and Other Stories. And she's also written a book for adults, a humor book called Tongue in Cheek, The Funny Side of Life, which was again published by Westland. And in her prior life, before she became a full-time author, she was the Associate Professor of English at All Saints College in Thiruvananthapuram. Welcome, Khyrinnisa.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. Thank you for your warm words of welcome. It's lovely to be with you, winning minds and inspiring women and so on. Let's see how much we can inspire or make them perspire.
Looking forward to it. And Jyoti Kapoor is a Mumbai-based screenwriter. She started out in journalism, but very soon moved into screenplays and creative writing. From her earlier days in the Indian Express and Midday. She's an alumnus of the Film and Television Institute of India, and she's written films like Kacha Nimbu, Davate Ishq, the TV series Left, Right, Left, which was an army series, if I recall. Right, and her latest works, which have been really fabulous, are Good News and Badhai Ho. She's also been the vice president. She is the vice president of the Screenwriters Association of India, and brings to bear all the creativity and the creative forces of people who work in the film and entertainment industries. Right. So Jyoti, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Amrita. It's wonderful seeing you again. And Khyrinnisa, hi again. And
hi.
Look forward to this session. Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, Jyoti.
Yeah. Fantastic. And since we've got humor and comedy writers with us today, I'm really hoping that we can have a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
Too much pressure, no? Sometimes when there's too much pressure to make people laugh.
Yes. It expect you to make them laugh. So that's... Yeah. Yeah, because we are not clowns or buffoons, so
exactly, yes, right.
But it's been a tough year, right? It's been a tough year all around for everybody, and I think humor is something that we've needed to draw upon this year to find amusement, to find moments of levity and lightness in many different ways.
Right.
So it couldn't be a more important topic than humor and comedy to discuss today as we close out 2020. So let's first understand a little bit about your journeys, both of you. So we'll start with Kairu and then go to Jyoti. But really, what was your inspiration for writing, like, for getting into creativity? Because both of you started in more traditional careers, and from there you've moved into creative writing. So, what was the early part of your growing up which led you into your passion for writing? And then what was that crystallizing moment when you said, I have to be a writer?
Okay, okay. So you're asking Jyoti or me?
Cairo, let's begin with you.
Okay, yeah. So I've been asked about this journey very often, and if there are people listening who have heard this, I will tell them, please, like I tell my students when I give lectures, and I recall that I'm talking about something I've already told. I'll tell them, please pretend you're hearing it for the first time and pretend to listen. So anyway, about coming to my journey, actually, I did not really leave a career to take up another career like Jyoti has done. Jyoti left journalism to go into screenplay writing and so on. My two careers were on two tracks at the same time. That is what happened. So why I went on to write, or what inspired me to write, was not probably, definitely a love for reading and a love for the English language. So those were my passions. So I grew up in a large family. You can imagine how it is. The youngest of 8 children, 7 girls and 1 boy. Spare a thought for the boy. And I'm the youngest. So we have each one in schools. Every if I'm 6, when I'm 6, my the sister just older is 8, 10. No, my parents were pretty regular about that. Every 2 years there was a child, and therefore, so I was the 8th one, and you need to hold your own when you are the youngest. And here is the family where we used to have a lot of fun. It's a big family. You know how it is. I do not know about your families, but anyone who comes from a large family knows there's a lot of fun. A lot of other things too, but primarily we know how to adjust, we fight, we do all kinds of things. But it was a reading family. Everybody loved to read. Books were there at home. Of course, we couldn't afford to buy books, so we used to borrow and return, all right? Not like someone who said, my whole library is made up of books I have borrowed and not returned. So we used to, we returned books, and we used to read, we used to fight over books and so on. So that was what was happening, and I loved English. And humor is something that, as I told you, when you're growing up in a family where there is a lot of quipping, repartees, back and forth, and so on, you have to keep your wits about you. You have to think on your feet. You have to know how to say something clever, because somebody is trying to be cleverer than that. So that's how it was. So all those skills were being honed as I was growing up. But writing, or wanting to become a writer, or having this passionate desire to become a writer, was never there. So that is a little, people consider it a little strange that I never wanted to become a writer. I accidentally strayed into writing. I love writing. I'm sure you know the difference. To love writing and to want to become a writer. So in school, when we had these creative writing periods, we used to call it composition period. I loved those periods. I wanted to write those outline stories, elaborating them, bring in lovely twists and turns, and I wanted to bring in something funny in those, even at that time when I was writing those. That was what was happening. But beyond that, it was just my love for English literature. I had to fight to take literature for BA, because you know how it was. It has to be either medicine or engineering, nothing else. If you opt for something else, you're a loser. It's assumed that you did not get admission in the other two. Whatever it is, my father backed me, and I did literature. And then I went on to teach, first in a school, then in a college, and I had a career as a banker for 2 years. Okay. Realized I'm not cut out for banking. It's, it's such a state job. I enjoyed the training period, 2 years all over India. That was lovely. At bank's expense, I saw the whole of India. But I wanted to get back to teaching. And there again, it's my love for books, love for literature, love for teaching that was happening. And that was how it would have gone on had it not been for something that was, and I used to write for the magazine, write for, to read out I would read out my stories at All India Radio, stuff like that, small, negligible stuff. And then when my son was small, well, we used to get Tinkle at home. You must have heard of Tinkle, right? Now it's published by Amar Chitrakatha. Yes, I think most of you must have been brought up on Tinkle. And yeah, so that was at home. And there you are, there was a competition for adult writers of children's fiction. Then I decided I will send an entry. I thought, okay, I think I'm adult enough. I think I can write for children. Let me see if I can craft a story that I can send as an entry. So I tell people I wrote just like that. But no, when you write, you don't really write just like that. You don't write just for a laugh. You're not entering a competition. You're not believing in the Olympic ideal. It's the participation that matters, not the winning. That's what we say when we don't win. So you want to get the prize. Yes. So what I thought was, okay, let me write a sports-based story. We love sports at home. Cricket, everybody's passion at home too, and therefore, and all other sports, most other sports. I thought I will write a cricket-based story because I realized there aren't too many stories, cricket sports-based stories for children. So that, I want to write a story that I presume will be different from what other people write. Then, since I love humor, I thought it should be a funny story. And now you will know, you'll wonder, so what has Butterfingers got to do with this? Butterfingers has everything to do with it because at home, as I told you, we are a clumsy family, like most other families. Things keep dropping all the time. But when somebody drops something, invariably that person is called Butterfingers. So at home, the name was constantly used. It's a nickname. It's been in the English language for a very long time. And I thought, all right, it just came to my head. Let me have as a hero, a boy, a 13-year-old boy, class 8 boy, whose nickname is Butterfingers because he is clumsy, he carries disaster with him, he's a walking danger zone, he is into all kinds of trouble, scrapes, not the typical goody two-shoes type, but one who is in the thick of things for all the wrong reasons. And I wrote the story Butterfingers, which is a cricket-based story. That story got the second prize, and I was very happy. Thought that's wonderful. But something else happened, which made me decide that maybe I can write a bit. There was a visitor who came home, a lady, a stranger with her husband. She happened to be the assistant editor. Her name is Prabha Nair. She always tells me, look, don't keep on repeating my name and telling people about this. I don't want people to know. And I make it a point to tell everyone about this because she had such a huge role to play in what I became. And she told me that I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised, thrilled, in fact, to have an editor. She was the assistant editor coming to your house on the basis of one miserable story. And she told me that in Tinkle, they liked the story very much, because it was a very lively story, but they didn't give me the first prize. All right, they gave me the second prize. Anyway, never mind. That's a one bone to pick. And they said, they liked it so much, they said, why don't you go and meet the author, find out if she's as bubbly as the story. And she came with my address in her hand. And she told me, asked me, are you sending an entry for the next year's competition? I said, no. She asked me why. I said, I've already got a prize. She said, dreadful, such low ambitions. You have to write. You write well. You must write. And we don't go by whether you have won a prize or not. We go by the quality of the writing. You have to write. That encouragement. So I really owe it to her because she told me to do this. I sent an entry which got the first prize, and then the writing bug nipped me, and I started writing. But this was all happening while I was teaching. Teaching is my passion. I love teaching. Actually, teaching was honing my skills too as a writer. Yeah, so that was happening. And then meanwhile, on the side, I was writing. Then Tinkle asked me to create a regular character for their magazine. I brought back this Butterfingers, who's been living in my head dropping things. So I brought him back and it became a huge hit in Tinkle. Children just love Butterfingers. Then from there, taking those stories to Penguin, they liked it. They wanted a novel instead of short stories. A novel came, the series started, and my journey began. All right. I'm sure when you asked me, you never expected this Ram Kahani.
But amazing how much serendipity plays a role, and finding the right person to give you encouragement at the right
Yes,
time.
correct. Yeah.
So, Jyoti, let's go back to your childhood and your early influences, please.
So, just when I thought I will speak, I could hear some noise in the background. There was a plane which was right above my. So anyway, if the noise comes back, I'll use my Bluetooth. But yeah, so I just like Khyrinnisa, it was I never really planned to become a writer. In fact, it was I just took the FTI entrance on a whim. It was, one of those night shifts at midday when I was bored and there was no crime happening in the city, and I was going through a newspaper. I mean, yeah, that's as cliched as it gets. You are a journalist and you're reading newspapers in the night. Anyway, so I came across this. I stumbled upon this ad, which was, asking for applications for the entrance examinations, and that's about it. I mean, I just filled up the application, and I was very sure. Like, I've never been so sure of anything in my life that I will never make it, because I never aspired to become a writer. And FTI has always, been, and it still is, an excellent institute, the best place to learn filmmaking. Anyhow, to my pleasant surprise, I got through, and that's when I seriously started writing. I mean, before that, like you mentioned, Khyrinnisa, that you do write. I mean, you don't seriously write. I mean, I have always been, you know, a, a closeted poet, writing short stories here and there. But I never really thought I could become a professional writer until, this I cleared this exam, and journalism is not a very so you had asked, Amrita, how we left the traditional paths and took to writing. I think journalism in those days was a very unconventional profession to get into, and I was also I was a medical student, and thank God, oh, my husband is finally leaving. Bye. Yeah, I had told him, बिल्कुल धीरे से जाना आवाज में. So yeah, so journalism was, I was a medical student, and just peer pressure, I think. I, thank God I never became a doctor, because I'm a butterfinger here, right here, and you can imagine what would have happened if
You
by
could have
some
done laughter
struck
therapy.
yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I was a bored journalist, and I think I had started concocting stories, and my boss at midday told me, look, if you keep cooking up stories, I'm going to fire you. And so I thought I will start writing fiction. Fiction is the place for me. I'm kidding, of course, but after a point, I really wanted to. I mean, I was burned out, and I was sick of facts, and so I made this switch, and the rest is history. I've been doing this for the last 15 years of my life, and this is the only thing I do. I mean, and that too, I'm a very lazy writer. I don't know how you manage to teach as well as write so regularly. I am a very lazy person.
I just have a question. What about your medical college experience? Did you not complete the course?
So that was not the medical college. I never went to the medical college.
Okay.
I had physics, chemistry, bio in 11th and 12th class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was good enough for me for a lifetime. I mean,
Well, you get all the physics and chemistry between your characters now.
I know.
yes.
But thing that comes to mind is that a lot of us think in English, we talk in English, but when we are writing screenplays and writing for television, you have to write in Hindi, you have to think in Hindi. So how do you mentally, I mean, make the switch?
Actually, I started. I used to write in Hindi as much as I would write in English. So when I was studying journalism, I was also freelancing with Dainik Bhaskar, with Punjab. I think it was Punjab Kesari. Yes. So with I used to write in Hindi as well as English, and now of course we end up talking more in English, and I mean we are supposed to be in the Hindi film industry, but you'll hardly find people talking in Hindi. That said, I love writing the Hindi dialogues. I actually think when I'm thinking of those characters, I only think in Hindi. But it's strange that we write the action is written in English and the dialogue is written in Roman Hindi. So, but yeah, I've never really faced that problem. Yeah.
No, that's very interesting. So, one question that often comes is uh, the humor writers or the comedy writers, do they have a funny bone? Are they always laughing at things? Is it an inbuilt gene, or is it a perspective or a point of view which they bring to everything in life, which is why they gravitated towards writing humor and comedy and not, something
Serious stuff.
denser? Yeah. So how, what was it that drew you towards humor and comedy, and what do you think is different, that you need to have in your mind or in your point of view to actually become a good humor writer or a good comedy writer? Khyrinnisa?
Okay. Because when it's two people, you want to know who is answering first. Yeah. Well, as I told you earlier, at home there is a lot of humor in the house, so that was happening, and I read a lot, but somehow my weakness was for humor books. P.G. Woodhouse, I discovered him when I was in the 8th class. And I still read his books. He's written about 100 books. I think I've read all of them. I've read so many multiple times. There's always a P.G. Woodhouse on my table. I just love his books. So if you look at it, my weakness was for humor writing, witty writers, even serious writers who also use humor and wit, like Rohinton Mistry in his Fine Balance. It's a very depressing book, but there are so many moments where there is humor used, fun. So you find that serious writers can also write humorously. But I have been writing humor because this is my natural inclination is towards humor, and I always find the funny side of things. You always are looking for. You're looking at the lighter side of life. You're looking at things from a different perspective, from the through your humor lens, you could say. Even when a serious thing happens, it's not that we are laughing at something. See, humor doesn't mean you're mocking. There are different kinds of humor. You have bitter satire, you have slapstick humor, you have a range, you have black humor, you have different kinds of humor. Mine is more the gentle humor. It could be laugh aloud humor, but it is never biting, nor cutting, nor hurting people. So that is something I don't want to touch upon. And when something happens, which could be really serious, see, finding a snake in your pond, I don't think you will sit and say, wonderful, I always wanted a crate in my pond. We having a pressure cooker lid burst in the kitchen. That's not anything to laugh at. Getting out of the car while going for a wedding, and your husband locks the door, and your pallu gets stuck in the car, and you are stuck to the car, and husband nowhere to be seen. No, that's not anything that is funny when it is happening. But what we do is later, we look at the funny side of it. So while something is happening, which could be serious, one part of the mind is looking for the humorous way in which you can look at probably a dangerous situation or a serious situation. But you're not going to laugh at something like, disease, people who are differently abled. Those kind of things you can't even touch those. So humor, you should know what you can use to generate laughs, what you cannot use to generate laughs.
What are the
So
power?
that is how it is. And maybe because it's kind of inbuilt in me, even when I take classes, and I know that children respond, students respond to humor. When you, in your lectures, I try to bring in humor. I try to bring in funny stories so that I get their attention. And when you keep on using that, I think when you talk also, it becomes, it's natural for you to bring in that. I love punning. I love the English language, as I told you, and I love to use words in different ways, to pun, alliteration, those kind of things. So that is, so humor can be used through language, through the way you use language. And these are the different ways in which I've been using humor. And maybe, like you said, I don't know whether I have a funny bone. I've never really tried to analyze. People say that I'm a funny writer, but I've not really tried to analyze why and how and what way I'm funny. I just um, write in that funny way. It's better not to analyze, though with the teacher's skills, maybe I can take myself out of myself. I don't want to do that. Yeah.
You know, it's a very organic process, the entire process of writing. Though I
Yes.
must share that PG Woodhouse has, was always one of my favorites
Ah.
growing up. And I remember when, I was in college in the US, and I wanted to own the whole collection of PG Woodhouse, which I have now. But at
Ah.
the time, I couldn't afford it. So I really
Yes.
used to go and buy one book a month. And I did that for months in a row till I
Oh, I
acquired
did something similar. I have almost all his books and the priced collection, and I keep them hidden because I'm so scared people will come and borrow them, and they will not return the books. So I'm very possessive about my Woodhouse collection. Yes. How nice to know this.
I think G. Woodhouse is everyone's favorite, you know.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so going back to the question, you had asked if we are funny people in real life.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, that is something that our friends probably can. I
Yes.
actually, you know, when I was reading that question, I was thinking I'll ask my friend, do you think I'm funny in real life? But I think, I mean, I remember my teacher once punished me because, so this is exactly what she said. So you think you're very funny. And so I was asked to, yeah, for that one, I think it was a social sciences class. And she was also our English teacher and one of my favorite teachers. And so I thought I could, joke around with her, but she obviously thought I was very funny or trying to be very smart. So she asked me to yeah, for the entire class, I was standing in the class. So yeah, I had to pay the price for being funny when I was a kid. I also essentially, I think it's essentially for me, it was a coping strategy. Maybe at one point, it always is. I always thought that I am the one, I am the person who's like whatever character it could be, a fictitious character that you're talking about it, but it's always you
Hmm.
who's that person. At some point you have been through something. It could be completely different, but I think that's how it started. It was a coping strategy perhaps, and it still is.
Hmm.
And now it's become second nature, for example, you mentioned how how when you are in that situation, you obviously, I mean, it's a very serious situation, and later when you look at it objectively, you think it was perhaps funny. But so I because a writer's mind is always at work. I'm sure even when you are in that situation, a part of you is thinking, once I get out of this alive, I'll definitely write about it. So for me, that's how life is. I mean, everything that's happening around you, and my stories are also, of course, not all of them have been made yet, but a lot of my stories are I wouldn't say autobiographical. Like everything that a writer writes has come from somewhere, someone, or, some part of your life. But I remember when I used to, so Good News is semi autobiographical. And I remember when I used to go to this doctor, this gynac, and she would, so we were, that is a fertility specialist, Khyrinnisa. I don't
Okay.
know if you've seen Good News, but yeah, that's the Good News is a story about a couple. It's a sperm exchange happens, and that,
Mm.
then the entire one
Things
thing leads
changes.
to other.
Okay.
And yeah, so I remember that doctor was one of those days I used to go for these injections, okay. And one of the reasons I chose her after meeting 10,000 doctors was because she's a very sweet lady, and we used to talk. I always like, for some reason, going to doctors who are chatty, which might not be the best thing in retrospect. So I remember, so I'm asking her one of those days. So I'm getting ready to, take the injection, and she's mixing all preparing a concoction, and she says, I don't know why people have kids. I'm telling you, this is exactly what she told me, because her teenager was really bothering her at that point. And I thought she was being funny, but she was not being funny at that point. And she actually did ask me. She said, "Did I use this injection or this?" So I was like, "Am I really? Am I going through this really?" So that was the time. Those are the things which I think, once you are a writer,
Yeah, it
you are
sticks in
also
your.
yeah, you can never stop thinking. And sometimes it's really helpful. It was a very cathartic experience for me when I was writing it. And it was really funny for me. It was funny throughout. Yes, there were tragic parts as well, but mostly funny, because I just couldn't stop looking at I mean, I was the character at that time, and probably in the middle of a tragic comedy kind of a thing. But it was funny, and that happens with me all the time. When I go for my physiotherapy, or I think I should write, there should be a medical genre that I should only stick to that. But yes, so I think you're always real life plays a huge role in what you write.
And it's your lens, right? Like, it could have been a serious situation. You could have said, "Oh my God, do I need to sue this doctor now?"
No,
Right?
no, she's a very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have written rom-coms. You've written, like, social comedies, as I would call it, because it's sort of more social real drama, like, both Badhai Ho and Good News. Less rom-com, like, Davate Ishq would be more rom-com. So there is a story that is running through. You have to have laugh out moments, but it needs to be held together, like, by a story that sort of has all elements, right? Like, it needs to have your ethos, pathos. It needs to have, like, the logic, like, logos, and it needs to have your laugh out loud moments. So how do you, like, balance out the parts of the story? And is there a lens of, like, like, should it be romance, should it be a social, or a, like, like, life issue? And how does it how do you find the story, and how do you balance the story?
Uh, uh, am I supposed to answer that? Okay. Yeah. So I think it's a very organic process. You just know. I mean, and I also think a comedy is not just a comedy. Like, I actually hate these genres when people. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about, when people approach you to write something,
Yes,
they
yes.
will see,
Look at you.
they'll put you in a box,
Yeah,
and
stereotype.
you're supposed to remind them that life is it's uh, there is everything in a story. It could be largely a comedy, but there will be good and bad phases in that story, pathos. uh, so you organically know, actually, when you're writing, it's just the story actually that you stick to. And once you start writing it, it automatically unfolds. And I don't actually think these are the parts that are going to be funny, or this is the part. There was a scene where I it's which is very rare. Okay, I never cry when I'm writing. I mean, I've heard of people who are like crying when they write, it never happens to me. But I do remember there was this one scene which every time I would read, I would have this tear in my eyes. So I thought, there must be something. There must be something when I come at this point in the story, this happens to me. So yeah, it's very organic if you ask me. And as far as rom-coms and social comedies go, I think writing a rom-com, and in today's day and age, everything has been done. Shakespeare did it like long, long ago, and then Hollywood did it, and उसकी बाकी कसर हमने निकाल दी है. I don't. So unless it's very difficult to write a rom-com. It's difficult to write more difficult to write a rom-com than a very uh, calculated thriller. So unless of course you find something new that you can peg it on. I personally like social comedies more. I also like black comedies. Khyrinnisa mentioned that there was this script that I wrote way back in FTI, which I have been wanting to make. But yeah, I also want to live, so I think it has to wait.
The cognitive sociologists say that those who like black comedy jokes and who enjoy them, they are intellectually superior and have a higher IQ.
I believe them. I believe them.
About you.
Yeah, because it needs something special to enjoy those jokes, because we are not really making fun. It takes a different kind of a mind to enjoy those jokes, which are actually about death and disease and all those terrible things. But what they say is that because we are able to find some humor even in those bleak situations, we will be able to tackle life better. That's what they say. And it needs a little higher level of intelligence, they say, to like those jokes. I don't know, but we like them. About a level of intelligence, I don't know.
Yeah, and also satire, which is something that we don't do especially in Hindi film industry, and in general, I think in India we take ourselves too seriously.
Yes.
And so you can't talk what you talk about. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk about anything basically.
Yes, we are very thin-skinned these days.
Where do you find humor?
Yeah.
You go back to rom-coms. I think they are the most harmless in that sense, where nobody's going to threaten you. But yeah.
But don't you think that's very sad?
Of course.
That because they are not allowed the freedom to do what you want, that people do not have the sense of humor to understand that this is not to be taken seriously. We have become so thin-skinned. It's terrible. Yeah. I really feel very sorry about the way our country is going and how people are forever objecting to every little. It's really putting fetters on us. Yeah.
I agree with you. We are always constantly censoring. Like, I'm sure all of us are doing that when we write. There is an internal censor, and then of course, when you send it out, then there are so many levels of censors. We actually get a censor certificate. So yeah, I wish we had the freedom to, like, it's so limiting. Like, you can't write about things. I have seen so many we've seen what happens to stand-up comics who just touch upon a thing. So anyway, I wish and I hope we will find, but I also feel that writers can sometimes you can slip in a message, and even within that canvas of very harmless comedy, and people who want to understand will understand it, and people I mean, nobody can point fingers at you, so you have to make it foolproof. But you can sometimes, which also I think makes it more exciting sometimes.
Yeah, it's challenging, and you have to use your diplomacy, right? Yeah.
Disney version of comedy, right? Where you have something for the parent and something for the adults and something for the children, and there is undercurrent that different people understand.
Yeah.
But staying on that idea of censorship, right? And even as an writer, like who's writing books, you have editors, and editors have a specific viewpoint of what they need to convey in a story. So have you, I mean, as a screenplay writer, Jyoti probably has had to deal a lot more with censorship. But as an author, can you talk about, in print books, what sort of editorial censorship did you have to face?
never had actually, because the kind of books I have been writing, they are totally fun books, humorous books. Here's this boy Butterfingers who is he takes disaster with him. You have a principal. All of them are. You could say semi caricatures, or they have their quirks and idiosyncrasies, but it's all fun. So nobody has ever said anything about them, except there was just once when this editor, we have in Clean Bowl Butterfingers, the third novel, they are playing cricket without cricket gear. All right, so the bat could be any kind of anything that looks like a bat, badminton racket, mosquito bat, or whatever, and the ball would be anything but a cricket ball. Different rules, and every over has a special ball. There is a special ball which is a fruit or a vegetable, which can, you know now why I have brought that in. So for that, I said we will this sapota. So my editor said no, it has to be chicky. Okay. Chiku. And I said no, sapota. She said no, chiku. So the sapota chiku debate was going on, and I said, look, in the South we all refer to it as sapota. She says, and also by then Shashi Tharoor has written, he loved the book, he read the book, and he's written an endorsement where he's talking about bursting supporters and so on. So, but she said, no, you have to make it Chico, because in the North, nobody knows it as supporter. In the South, they know it as supporter and as Chico. So don't you think? And I really, somehow the ring of the word also, supporter, sounds to me better than Chiku. So finally, I had to come up with a compromise. This went on for some time. And it's a very small thing, and it's not a big editorial debate or anything. But finally, I said, all right. And I made a teacher ask, what is the supporter? And it was explained that it is also Chiku. And then it was used. So that is the way we got around that. These are all small things, but otherwise I don't think we really had any big issues. Even in my book for older people, that is tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, nothing. Because
about that, did you self-censor yourself? Because it's about family life and married life, and seeing what did your husband say when you first wrote
He's
it?
very much there in the book. In fact, he's one person that I can use in my book as not exactly the butt of comedy, but because he's very much there. I tell everybody every incident in the book actually happened. I have embellished it, exaggerated it, added frills and frumps and everything, but it really happened. So what could I do? I did the best thing I could do, which is I dedicated the book to him. And I have written my dedication for my husband, Vijay Kumar, who strayed into the book and stayed there. So he's there in almost all the articles. He doesn't mind, because I have not been, the humor has been gentle. Sure. Even if you laugh aloud, it is not cruel. So people take it well. And somebody even said, actually, it seems like there's a love story running behind, even though you have made him the butt. You know that there is a lot of affection and love between you that's very visible in what, I don't know. That is for people to tell you. See, you write something, and then people come back with their notions of what they have read into our relationship from the book. Mm-hmm. So that is the critic's mind. Yeah.
And what comes for you first? Like, is it the story, or do you think of a situation and then that becomes a story? Or is it a character that comes to your mind first and then you build the story and the incidents around?
I don't think there is a hard and fast rule. Jyoti also will agree with me. There is no hard and fast rule about what comes first, because you don't go according to certain rules or some standard or something. Sometimes it would be a situation that is the trigger. Like Jyoti said, most of the things that she writes about have happened in her life or she has seen around her. It's the same with me, because I don't write fantasy. I don't write about magic. It's all humor generated through real life incidents, maybe exaggerated, because exaggeration is a great weapon that humorists use. So that is how it is. But sometimes it would be a character. Sometimes it would be the story. You think of the story first. Sometimes it even is the title. You have just the title. And then, like, I had the Lizard of Oz. By the way, that book was published by Scholastic, and Red Panda's book was The Crocodile Who Ate Butter Chicken for Breakfast and Other Stories. Right, so that is the latest book of mine. And Lizard of Oz, I wanted a story about a little creature. I needed to. My animal stories are mostly about little creatures, or if it's big creatures, they are vulnerable. A lion without teeth and things like that. So here is this lizard, and I thought Wizard of Oz, Lizard of Oz. That's it. I didn't have a story. I just had the title. And then I had to think of Oz, could be Australia. I put my lizard in Australia. I made him come to India because I don't know about lizards in Australia. So I brought him to India in a suitcase and then started the whole story. Or it could be situations, because there was once my husband had a small accident in the bathroom. He just slipped and he hit his mouth on the tap. And I didn't know. I was in college. He was getting ready to go to his college. So when I came in the evening, he comes like this to open the door. So I asked him, what happened? He can't speak properly because this has happened. And he, without informing me, he's gone and got his several stitches and so on. That happened. But once this news got around, people wanted to come and see him. Now, when they come to see him, you know how our people are. What happened? Tell us what happened. And he can't tell because he's not able to. So I step in and I say, see, this is what happened. No, you shut up. We want to get the story from the horse's mouth, and the horse's mouth is muzzled. What do you do? So that is when I got this idea. If there was a recorder, I could get him somehow to describe what happened, record it, and the next time somebody comes, turn it on. So they get it in his voice, his experience. He doesn't have to do this. So that was, and I made it into a Butterfingers story. Butterfingers and the voice recorder. That's not enough. You need a lot more. You need a proper plot. This is just one part of it. So this is how we work. I'm sure Jyoti will agree and will come up with her own experiences.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think I should give that recorder to my parents because I remember my mom was she was having a knee transplant, and I'm sure all over India, people just, and in North especially, they will not only want to come and ask, like you said, hear it from the horse's mouth, but they will also. So I remember my mom was peeling apples when my relatives were, all around. They had generally come to check on her, but she was the one who was feeding them. So it's a big thing in North. So I am going to give her a recorder, and also maybe have a, like just set up a small pantry somewhere where people can just go and pick up things and peel their own apples, and or just give it to them when they're leaving. So but that's really hilarious. Similarly, there was uh, I don't know, all my ideas, a lot of them come to me when I'm in hospitals, strangely. uh, I think that's also so in midday I was covering the medical beat, health beat. So I don't know, maybe it comes from there, or I generally like going to hospitals. But I remember there was this lady who had come for her knee checkup when I had taken my mom to the hospital, and she was wearing heels. She was asking the doctor, I think she had her surgery, and she was asking the doctor if she can now go back to wearing heels. And I thought, what a marvelous character that is. And I'm just letting everyone know that that story I'm working on. It's still not out, but I'm generally saying that you pick up these little things from
That's
all
cool.
around you. It could be a situation also. Yeah, I'm sure all of us, when we are watching a movie or reading newspapers, because I'm in the a bad habit of reading I used to read 7 newspapers when I was a journalist because we were supposed to know what's happening all around, especially in your beat. Like you should know what the other paper has reported in, for example, health. And I used to read everything. And because I'm trained to read all the newspapers, I'm a newspaper junkie. A lot of those ideas also come from news stories,
Yes.
which is I think yeah, that's the, you know, that's the best time I spend in the morning reading newspapers. Of course, a lot of them are like bizarre stories, tragedies, but you're looking for that one little story which will, trigger something in you. And
I
you
find
know,
Hindi newspapers to be absolutely hilarious. A lot more than the English media, which takes itself a little bit more seriously.
absolutely, absolutely. So I have my sources. Like my parents have been told to keep pointing me to these interesting news stories. Some of these channels, also the regional channels, news channels, have some wonderful stories, and you just hope that not a lot of writers have seen them.
And the language also sometimes tends to be funnier in vernacular than it is in sort of like, proper
Yeah,
English.
it's delicious. It's so delicious. I mean, also, I get a lot of ideas. So sometimes I would be at home trying to write, and there's a deadline, and I couldn't write through the day. Okay. And I would just step out, take a rick, or just step into a moving vehicle, and my mind would start working because life is happening around you. You can't just sit inside a room and write. You have to step out. I'm also, I think Khyrinnisa would agree with me that we are always eavesdropping on people. Like sometimes I feel that people will suspect me because I'm always, like, always I'm trying to, if there's a conversation happening and I'm taking a walk inside a park, I will try and follow people. And I
Yes.
think one of these days I'll get caught.
Yes. Those snatches of conversation are very interesting.
Brilliant. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm actually sometimes, do you do that? Like I'm sometimes talking to people on the phone, like a
Mm,
friend sometimes,
mm,
and he's telling me a very serious thing, and something would trigger something, and I would take a pen and paper and
mm.
just start jotting it down. Like, which is really, I mean, if I tell
No.
them later that this is what I do sometimes, they're going to kill me. But you do that sometimes. You, of course,
Yeah.
don't write it. You don't write that exact thing, but it just triggers
Yes.
something in you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't do that. I have not done that.
Which you are a very
Has been
good
there.
person.
Not at all like that. This is totally different way in which I work. I keep them, and what you say is very true. I think I should adopt this habit of writing it down then and there, because we rely on our memories, and our memories fail us sometimes, or very often. You think you will remember, and sometimes some wonderful phrases come to your mind, some wonderful, lovely sentences, and you'll think you will remember. Even ideas disappear sometimes. So now I have a book. I write down on the book. I mean, in the book, what if I get suddenly I get some idea, and then you build the story from the ideas, because that's how short stories work. Like Amrita asked me whether you start from the story, because basically the story is very, very important. Aristotle's time, he said plot is the most important thing. So story is very important, but how you start the story, what is the trigger? Is it the character's quirks when it is Butterfingers? This chap has got certain qualities, so those qualities should take the story forward. So there's a kind of a formula in my books with Butterfingers, in the sense the basic broad formula is, through his butterfingeredness, you could say, he lands in trouble, and through his butterfingeredness he comes out of the trouble. He manages to get out of trouble, but how that happens keeps changing. But this is how it is, and my readers want it that way. You know how it is in a series, you want the character to be like that, you have to have them like that. So I too should please them, and I can't Amrita was asking about mixing serious bits with the comedy. In my first book, I have a character, Colonel Nadkarni, who dies. He needed to die. I needed him dead because that is part of the plot. Only when he dies, then the will is missing. And then there is a whole lot of, they have to find the will and so on. The children will lose their playground, etc. And you won't believe it. I have not been forgiven yet for having killed Dr. Nadkarni. I mean, Colonel Nadkarni. Children, one child wrote to me saying, I was in the library reading this book. I was laughing. And then I came to this part where Colonel Nadkarni is dead. He said, I put the book down, I put my head down, and I cried for 10 minutes. And I thought, my goodness, and I so casually, so happily killed him off. Of course, I made him 76 years old. I made him have a painless death. I took him to London and made him die. I did a lot of things to soften the death, but I killed him. So that is how it is. So finally, your readers expect something from you, and we shouldn't let them down. And after that, I've not killed anybody. Not even a mosquito, I think. Yeah.
So that's very interesting that you said that your readers expect that Butterfingers, even though he's quirky, and the quirks make you empathize with him, but in the end he must win.
Yes,
because he's the hero.
yes.
And is that something that Jyoti, you also face? That even though the character is funny and the character goes through situations which you treat through the lens of comedy, but in the end the character must win.
Um, Actually, it's not just the readers. I want my characters to win. And you get, I don't know, I just feel sad if they don't. Of course, in Khyrinnisa's case, it was a plot which, if the plot requires it, you have to kill them. I mean, you don't have a choice there. And what was interesting was you took him to London. I don't know if people like dying when they could go to London more than India, but yes, that I mean, people are lost in the sights and sounds of London when they are reading it, perhaps. But yeah, coming back to your question, see, we have other concerns. When you're writing for a film, you have 10,000 things that you have to. You are, first of all, you are self-censoring. Then you really don't know if what you wrote is what you will get to see in the theaters. There are times when you want to, shout it, scream from the rooftops that this one line that you are accusing me of was not written by me. But again, you also, it's because it's such a collaborative medium. Sometimes you also get credited for something that, that one thing that you perhaps haven't written. You have to take it in your stride. But then there are a lot of things. I mean, in screenwriting, it's exhausting. The kind of things that you have to, adhere to when you're writing. So yeah. But I generally don't like to kill my characters.
And so does Khyrinnisa, as we are here.
I won't. I had to. I liked Nadkarni, but I needed to because that was my plot. And
That was so sweet. I mean, imagine, that is also, in a way, imagine your audience, a kid writing to you or telling you that was the moment when he felt sad. I think that's that's very interesting to get. So when you are an author, as opposed to a screenwriter, there's that connection between you and your audiences is it's a very close connection.
It's very direct.
Yeah. Unlike films where half of the time people don't know that you have, of course, your parents will know, or your close friends will know, but half of the time people wouldn't know that there is this person who was sitting, whatever, who was holed up for 3 hours inside her house when she really wanted to step out and she did not, but she did that. So it's a very thankless job in some ways. But again, I mean, when you see that the story unfold in front of your eyes and in a theater, that feeling is, it's completely, that high is indescribable.
Yeah.
And I hope that the theaters open up soon, because yeah.
I know it's such a visual medium, like the entire film
Right.
medium, that you don't get the full, I guess, impact of or the full experience of it till you see it in the big screen, right?
Right.
So, let's talk a little bit about this role of humor and comedy in coping with life sometimes, right? Like, we focused on your process as a writer, and the fact that it's a visual medium and you need to interweave the story in a different way. But there is an impact that it has on the reader or on the viewer, and it perhaps has an impact on, like, it's perhaps, as you both of you have said, that it is your mechanism to cope with the seriousness of life, where you see things in a different light, right? So have your readers or viewers actually come back to you, saying that they actually find some sort of a release, they find it easier to deal with life when they see the same thing, which can be written in a serious way, it could have been written in a tragic way, ends up being presented as a comedy.
Yes. Yes, many people have come back to me, especially with tongue in cheek. If you'd read it, you will realize it's full of experiences of an urban Indian woman, urban middle class woman. It's her experiences that you can easily empathize with. So I've got so much of feedback about how they said this happened to me, but I didn't look at it this way. This is exactly how it happened, but how could you put it in this way? And there is this incident of a coconut falling on on an auto in front of my house, and I had a student who was with me. She had come to visit me. She was with me, and this coconut, this auto rickshaw driver came with this coconut, and he rang the bell and was brandishing this coconut and said, "Here is this coconut." So I put it in a very humorous way, and everything that happened. And it came in the newspapers. It was part of my, I have a column, and so my student, and then there were two other boys who came later. So they said, we were all there, but we didn't look at it this way. So that is how it works. And also what I'm very happy about is the feedback I got. Quite a few people wrote to me saying, this is perfect for COVID times. I got through my, I was corona positive, and I was recuperating, and your book took me out of it. So those kind of things make me very happy, because it really, laughter, humor, a sense of humor, it really helps you become more healthy, de-stress you, to uplift your spirits, which is all very important for our mental health. They say that it releases its endorphins, the chemicals, feel good chemicals. Whatever it does, laughter generally does have a very therapeutic effect. And that is what anthropologists have said. Every culture has humor. There's no culture which is not able to, it doesn't have humor in its makeup. And that is very, very important for us. So sense of is what can you call it? The immune system of our mind, you could say. It's very, very important. I'm sure Jyoti will agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, so that is the time when you receive a feedback like that is what you actually live for. Forget the other, forget accolades, forget
Yes.
whatever the money you made, or whatever the critics praising your film. When it connects with, resonates with people, and okay, so I just like this person who was going through recuperating from corona, read your book, and it helped this person. There's this friend of mine who had lost her mother, and this is around this time, that was the time when Good News had released, and she just, I think that was the first thing she saw after, like, it had been a month or so, and she just went and watched it, and she called me and she said, and Punjabis, Punjabis में हर चीज में 2 किलो खून बढ़ता है हर चीज में. So she told me कि मेरा 2 किलो खून बढ़ गया आज. But I think that was the That was that's the biggest compliment when people come and tell you things like that. I remember this also because Good News deals with, I mean, there's a premature birth in the film, and of course, the child survives in the film. In real life, it always doesn't really happen. So there were couples who wrote to me, and some of them who had gone through it. They said it was a very cathartic experience for them. Um, uh, and even though you know, it was a tragedy that they went through when they saw the film, uh, which is something that for me also, it was a very cathartic experience. So when people write to you about such experiences, I think that is the time you realize that it's totally worth it. Whatever you are doing, you have to remind. I actually wanted to put it on the, the wall in front of, like on my desk, in front of my desk, and so that I remember when I'm writing, when I'm there are times when you're so frustrated, when you can't crack a scene, just to remind yourself that what you're writing will make someone smile, someone get through the day, someone who's had a bad. So I'll also tell you about this very interesting experience I had in a cinema hall. I think it was the interval time, and I went to the washroom, and there was this woman who was, I think she had cried sometime before, and she was just touching up her makeup, and she went back to the hall. And I was wondering what there must have been something that, and she went back to the hall, and it was a comedy. And it was a very, I think it was Veere the Wedding, which was a very, like, the critics did not really have great things to say about it. But I thought that, you know, a story, a film which is funny does different things for different people. And even though the critics or people in general underestimate comedies and humor, it's something that's very difficult to write to begin with, and also something that, like Amrita said, that takes us through life. I mean, we all need laughter. We all need to be happy.
Yes.
And if what you've written gives people that, then nothing like it.
It will stop us thinking too much of ourselves and understand that we are tiny creatures in this world. Yeah, we should be realistic about all that, and be a little more self-effacing. I think it's very important that you laugh at yourself. I'm always laughing at myself. My book is only about that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. We should not take ourselves so seriously.
So seriously.
Yeah, yeah. And I love self-deprecating humor.
And it helps us cope so much more, right? Like, it touches a chord somewhere, right? Because we all face those situations, moments, maybe not exactly that, but in a different way, in a different scenario. So it always, touches
Yeah,
and tells you and reminds you there are other people out there who are dealing
yes.
with it, and they're dealing with it with a different lens.
Yes, that's right. And it gives a purpose to your writing, which is very important. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. So we are, sort of reaching the end of our conversation today. I could go on for more. I think, like, there's so much more to unpick, which I haven't unpicked as yet. But being mindful of the time, just wanted to, ask both of you that, since this is a platform for reaching out to younger women out there, both people who may be aspiring to write, as well as, just general young people out there, what would your message be to those people? Khyrinnisa, let's begin with you.
Okay. So let me borrow from Edison, who described genius as 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I think that's what writing is. Maybe the percentage may not be 1 in 99, but it's a lot of hard work. And readers only read the final product. So the process is very difficult, sometimes heartbreaking, sometimes there are stumbling blocks. So we clear all that and then you have the final product. So what I would like to tell people who want to write is, keep reading, keep writing, enjoy what you're doing, and rejection should not lead to dejection. You have to take things in your stride and be happy doing what you are doing. There may be rewards, don't look at that. You understand that the writing itself is the most important thing. So keep reading, keep writing, and you will be very happy. Whether you're going to write comedy or tragedy or whatever, I think just writing will be a cathartic experience and you will enjoy it. Keep your eyes and ears open. As Jyoti also said, keep your eyes and ears open, be eavesdroppers, do all the things which are not particularly polite, but that's what we readers have to do. I'm sorry, we writers have to do. And these rare people who want to write, I think they should do that. So perspire a little, enjoy writing, and wish them all the best.
Yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up. That's exactly what writing is all about. It's difficult, but it's also enjoyable. So unless you can find that joy in writing, I mean, forget the final outcome of it. You have to just enjoy the journey, I think. Unless you enjoy that, everything else, I think, comes later. To begin with, you have to enjoy the process. And yes, always keep a pen and paper handy. Uh, and maybe a recorder, keep a recorder with you. Get some private detective, get some classes which will hone your eavesdropping skills. And also, yeah, don't take yourself too seriously. Find the, I mean, a good sense of humor goes a long way. It's an important skill set to have in life and also when you're a writer. And yeah, and also, I think that's something you covered as well. Don't, especially to women who want to write comedy, uh, just break the rules, stop being so hard on yourself. Also because, women who behave seldom make history. So just do whatever you want to do, let your hair down and just enjoy the process. Yeah.
Just do it. Right. So, if to ask you, like, one rapid fire last thing, like, your mantra for life, or like, this win inspire message that young women should consider when they are looking at their own lives.
I didn't get you. Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear it properly.
Your one mantra for life, for crafting life.
For life?
Yes.
I would say, as Jyoti has said, don't take yourself seriously. Find joy in every little that you see around you. That is my mantra for life.
Yeah, I think pretty much that. And also don't plan. Don't plan too much. Whatever has, again, this is something that I'm not just telling you, I'm trying to tell myself, because I'm in the habit of planning everything, and a lot of times it gives me anxiety. So take it easy, enjoy yourself, find joy in everything around you. Yeah. And little things will give you joy. uh, Forget about bigger things, they will happen, but enjoy the little things around you. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, both of you, Khyrinnisa and Jyoti. It's been so wonderful having you here today. And frankly, it's been a very difficult year for everybody. And what you said about planning, I mean, we've all made plans in lives, in our lives. To see some of them come true and some of them not come true. And this has been a year where more plans actually have not come true for most people, right? And we've all had to learn, really how to let go of situations and say that, okay, how do I find joy? How do I find peace? And Really, thanks again for both of you to be here and for sharing your messages with our listeners and our viewers today. Fantastic.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Yes, thank you, Amrita. Thank you, Jyoti. Amrita, for being such a lovely hostess, and Jyoti, such a joy being with you.
Likewise, I'm going to pick up your books, and I think Butterfingers is the first one that I yeah,
Okay.
because
And
I'm that character, because I'm a person. Yes.
you are a Butterfingers, right? Yes, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But take a look at tongue in cheek also, and just let me know if you can relate to some of the incidents. It will be nice. Amrita also. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
Lovely
you.
talking to all of you. Yeah.